I am blue, you are bright and shiny in my mind. You got me loving, hating, crazy indecision in my mind.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast, where the focus is on deer hunting, tips, tricks, tactics, and stories from across the Midwest. And now, here is your host, Aaron Blicey.
All right, we're hot once again, and we just recorded 10 beautiful minutes of audio waves, and the battery died on us, and that file is corrupt. So we're going to try this one more time. I mean, technology. Yeah, we're in the business, so it if it can go wrong, it will go wrong, and it did. So, of course. Anyway, so to go back, I'm in a basement in Des Moines, locked up.
My basement.
Justin Fabian's basement. He's back finally on the podcast for the first time in
a month and a half.
At least, yep.
Yeah.
And to my right, I have Keegan Zemer.
Howdy.
And then to his right,
howdy,
I've got Allie Fabian.
How's it going? That's
Justin's wife, and we are just drinking some Busch lattes. And the reason why we're down here is because Keegan and I are on our way to Kansas, and we're picking up Casey tomorrow at Kansas City Airport. So we thought we'd come here tonight. Justin and Allie offered to. Well, Justin did. It's probably against Allie. Didn't want us here, probably.
No, you're always welcome.
To stay the night, and I haven't seen Justin in a while either, so it was cool to come and hang out. We just thought we'd record a podcast here, so
might as well.
Here we are.
Yeah.
So I want to kick it off first, and it is October 9th, so it's Wednesday. This is going to go out in a couple days. So, we're kicking off the second week of October, and you haven't hunted yet.
No,
I'm the only one that's hunted
deer.
whitetail so far out of the group here today.
Yep.
So I want to get into some whitetail things first, and I had a good trip in Ohio. I didn't even go to Ohio. Haven't been there yet. Iowa last week, and got to kill a doe and a coyote. So I had a good trip there. Saw some good bucks. Nothing that I wanted to really come home with. So to kind of kick it off, I want to start with Justin and just kind of see what his whitetail plans are, because they have kind of changed a little bit since he has made a career change.
Yes.
And he no longer works for Midwest Whitetail. He's moved on, and he's doing something else now. So we can briefly touch on that, and then I want to get into your whitetail plans. So kick it off.
Sure. I left Midwest Whitetail. I guess I put my notice in back in mid-July, and I started full-time with Base Map in August. August 6th was my first official day there, and I think a lot of people at this point have at least heard of Base Map, but for those that haven't, it's a mapping and navigation app for your phone. Yeah. It's on all three platforms, so there's a web version, there's your mobile app, and then it's available on tablets too. So kind of cool. It's all linked together, so anything you do on the computer shows up on your app, and vice versa. You can do all your e-scouting from home and then have all your info in hand when you get out in the field. But it's one thing we talked about earlier on the first round of this was how I was only at Midwest for a little over a year.
Yep.
And obviously going into that, I had no idea that I'd be sitting here with a different job a year later. I mean, that was obviously, it was never the intention, but stuff like that. I mean, it's looking back, it was a stepping stone for sure. And I mean, I learned a lot from those guys and working with those guys, and it was a great team to be a part of. And I got nothing bad to say about it. And, I still talk to those guys, and everything's good, but, I just offered a pay increase with some more long-term benefits. And, I kind of got a feel for Base Map before I accepted the job, and I just really felt like it was something I could, apply myself to 100%. And it just made sense to make the move, and that's what I did. But like you said, it's a career change. It's a little different pace, and there's more to it than just the whitetail stuff now, and I really like it so far. It's put me back on the road more than I thought I would have to be when we first decided to move to Iowa from New York, back in March. But I mean, that's the name of the game. You just look for those opportunities to advance a career and step up and.
It's better decision for you and your family too.
Yeah.
So you've got to take that into consideration first and foremost.
For sure. And it's one thing I do want to try to do is get one of our guys on to talk about the program more specifically, and we can discuss that ahead of time. But it's something that I'd like to at least explore and see if we can get some more information out there on it. And like I said, I really do believe that it's got some legs and it's going to go places. Otherwise, I wouldn't have taken the job. So it's exciting.
Well, I'm excited to hear more about it too, because I don't know a lot about it either. I haven't had much time to talk to you, honestly, because you've been in the bush for the last month. So, but I want to kind of transition a little bit to whitetail. You're heading off on a trip this weekend to Maine.
Yep.
Not for whitetail, right?
Correct. I'm going up to film a moose hunt.
So you're going to go for a moose hunt for a week? Is it a week?
Yeah, it's only a 4-day hunt, but day of travel on each end. And
so what's your plan for whitetail, going forward here in October before the rut?
I'm going to start off back in that same piece of public land that I killed my buck in last year. I really see no reason not to do that. I saw enough deer in there last year, and in that course of 3 days, leading up to the day I killed my buck.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know I didn't kill the biggest deer. I'm confident in saying I probably killed the oldest deer in there, but I've got footage, and I had some encounters with other deer that, dwarf this one. And I just know that the potential is still there. And last year, there's private right to the north of that, and I was literally within 50 yards of that boundary last year when I killed, and all that private was a big. It was all corn.
Yep.
So
this year
extensive corn,
beans, probably.
Right. So, and I haven't even been down there to scout it, to be honest with you. I'm way behind on. I'm just going in blind again. I haven't run cameras. I don't have any stands in there, and we've talked in the past. I mean, I kind of like that factor.
Right.
I know what's there. I know how the deer use it. So, knowing what I saw in there last year, I want to go in there and hunt it out as if it's untouched.
Well, what's going to be your tactic going in, day one when you go in there? You're going to do a scouting / kind of still hunt, or are you going to go to that same spot and try to do the same thing, or what are you going to do?
No, I think what I want to do is, because I went in there for 2 muzzleloader hunts last year, late season, and I kind of pushed further into that draw where I was, because all it is it's a little finger of timber that runs up out of this much larger piece that's in the heart of that public chunk, and it just kind of peters out into that cornfield, and that's exactly where the fence line is. So it's like a little wedge shaped piece. So my goal is, thinking that there's probably beans in there, I just want to get back up in that little pinch, and I mean I'll play it safe, obviously with the wind and everything, but I just have, I mean it's more than a feeling. It's pretty obvious to me that there's probably been deer working that bean field all summer long, working up that draw out of the timber. So I'm gonna hunt that same fence line again, and I'm probably gonna take a stand in just to be able to see a little more. I'm not gonna ground hunt again this early, but I really did like the ground aspect of that hunt last year.
Well, it worked to a T,
and it worked awesome. And it's it's one of those things where instead of having the elevation and the wind advantage you would in a tree, I had the cover advantage from the ground, and I just played the wind. And I mean, you saw the footage, and I mean, it obviously killed the deer. So I mean, it worked awesome, and just with a different food source up there, I mean, I know the deer are still going to use it the right way.
For sure.
But when I pushed in there muzzleloader season, I went further into the draw, and I found a really nice ridge top in a place where a tree was down on the fence. So I mean, I know they're walking right over it right there. So
find a low spot in the fence, that's where they're going to be coming through. So
right. So it just started raining here about an hour ago, and this is our second cold front for the month of October, and it's only the 9th.
Yep.
So temperature is going to drop out after the rain stops, and we're going to have 30s at night and 40s in the day.
It's going to be chilly
with northwest winds. I mean, this is November conditions right now.
It really is, yeah.
With plenty of food on the ground still, and I mean, it's about a half a mile 2-track in there. That's I almost got stuck in there in muzzleloader season. So I don't know what kind of traffic's in there. It's still relatively new in as far as, having been put into public access last year for the first time. So
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it's, like I said, I have no reason not to start there.
Yep. And we are in the second week of October, and, I kind of want to stay relevant with this and talk a little bit of tactics for this time, because I feel like the second week, a lot of people call it the lull, quote unquote, the lull. I don't know if there is a lull. I think, I don't know what it is really. It's just one of those things that, I don't know. It's hard to explain, I guess, my feelings on it. It could be hunter pressure, like the deer have not seen, pressure in a while, so it could be them just be, the movement subdued a little bit just from hunter pressure. I really don't know. Usually, to me, the lull is like October, middle of October. It's like, usually, my experience is the temps usually get warmer and the deer hunker down a little bit more,
I think it's just a result of that changing season.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything like biological or physiological with the animals themselves. It's just a matter of that transition from summer to fall.
Yep.
And there's that time frame where, the animals are going to have to adapt to that as well. And I think that's just kind of what the lull gets equated to.
Yep.
But the only thing working against us right now is the moon phase. Like, we're coming into a full moon here
On the 12th.
on the 12th.
Yep.
And it happens to coincide with this cold front and with those nighttime temperatures. I mean, we're not talking about combating like a nighttime rut, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all know that the deer tend to be more active in the middle of the night on a full moon, but they're also more active in the middle of the day.
Right.
So with temperatures what they are and all that food still out there, I mean,
a lot of food still standing right now.
Yeah, and I'm still going to play that afternoon card like you typically would hear a lot of people say in October. I'm just going to maybe go in at like 2 o'clock instead of 4 o'clock.
Yep.
Just give myself some more time in the middle of the day. And like I said, just treat it like an observation sit.
Yep.
And by all means, if a buck walks by that gets me excited, I'm shooting it, no doubt. But
for sure,
I'm not holding out.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at too. Like, I hunted some mornings in Iowa last week, but it was cold. I mean, it was 40 degrees. It was chilly. So, and I was there only for 4 days, so I really wanted to get some sits in and everything. But it's, it's tough hunting mornings early season like this. But I want to kick it over to Keegan here, over to the right here. He just come fresh off an elk hunt, and I want to get your thoughts on mid-October hunting.
I'm excited. Just excited to get out. I haven't put in like a whitetail season probably more than 3 or 4 sits in like 4 years.
Yeah,
so.
You've been in Denver.
Yep.
Working a lot at your old job, so you've been away from kind of the whitetail world. But from your experiences, in the past, what has been, the tactics that worked for you the best, and what have you experienced?
I always like Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
Even when I was there, I would target to go home for that weekend.
Well, and honestly, in Michigan, you and I are both in a pretty pressured state. You grew up in Wisconsin, I'm in Michigan. The 25th through the 31st has been my favorite time.
Yep.
Because the more mature deer, in my opinion, in a pressured situation, you'll see them more visible in daylight hours because they're going to get that first doe that comes into estrus typically, and that's when I've seen them the most. I mean, when the rut really starts cranking, it is hit or miss. You know what I mean? You could throw a dart at the wall and just like, I'll try to go sit here, and it kind of, you kind of get more lucky than good. You know what I mean? Like you could try a spot where you're like, I never see deer there, and you can go in there and see the biggest deer of your life, and it's like, what do you do? But
it's that everybody always says, it's the rut, you never know.
Exactly.
And
should I go sit there?
Well, that makes it even
you never know,
more difficult to decide what to do because anything could happen, and everything or any scouting you've done is out the window. And I mean, at that point, from my experience, the best thing to do is obviously just focus on those does. Like,
100%.
If the weather's going to push them to food, hunt the food. If it's a fringe or a bedding area, stay in the timber and hunt the bedding areas. And that never know factor just makes you second guess yourself to the point where it's like, oh, well, it's too late. I'm not even going to go now.
Well, my personal opinion, with the week coming up here, which is the second week of October, it'd be hard to get me in a typical mid-October setting. It'd be hard to get me out in the woods in the morning. But since the cold front's coming and it's a big cold front, I'm going to hunt mornings. It's going to be 35 degrees. I'm getting in a stand. It might be a quick hunt. It might be an hour and a half hunt. And, the deer, you're trying to catch them, get back to bed or whatnot. And it might be quick, but you're still out there doing it. And if you got some spots to get into without screwing anything up, I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
But be a little more passive, I guess, if it's not a big cold front, if it's not cold. If it's in the mid 60s to the mid 70s, I probably wouldn't hunt the mornings. Like, that's pretty warm still.
Yeah, but that's relative to your geography. If you're looking
100%.
at a temperature drop from 80 to 60, by all means, go for it.
Go. Yep.
But like with me here in Iowa, we're talking about going from 70s to 40,
yes.
or 50 to 30.
100%. Like, if you're in Alabama and it's 80 degrees tomorrow, but it's going down to 65, that's a cold front.
Yeah.
Like, I would get in the woods.
Yep.
So, earlier, the second week of October, have you found any success at all in the past, like in, the quote unquote lull?
No, I haven't. But again, I haven't hunted that much. And I don't know this for sure, but I tend to wonder if like food has something to do with that.
Well, the transition
the October
of food
lull.
too.
Yeah, I mean your soybeans are turning yellow, corn's being harvested.
Yep.
So our deer just moving from soybeans and corn to acorns in the woods, and most people don't see, deer where they're typically sitting on the edge of a field.
That's a good point, though, too, because I mean, when you and I drove here this morning, my brother-in-law was chopping all of his corn, and deer, like big cornfields, like deer.
Yeah,
that's gonna shock them. Cornfield that have been up for the last couple months, and then you like take it all out. It's like, wow, it's a damn beach out here, you know what I mean? So
where
am
I going to hide?
Exactly. Where am I going to go? And they might go to the closest security cover and just hang out for a little while, and because they know in a couple weeks that testosterone's going to override their brain, they're going to be thinking with other parts of it instead of their brain. And it's like, they're going to go crazy. So,
even back home too. So it's probably like 40 or 60 acres of soybeans that's right across the road, what I'm talking about. And all summer long in the area where we put in that food plot, it's been 3 to 4 resident does with their fawns and a spike, and that's all I see on camera. And then this last week was the first week that I had I would shoot both of them, 2 bucks that have showed up on
Great
camera.
Michigan bucks.
Yeah. So again, I don't know if it has something to do with food, but for me, that's enough to get me out in the stand.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's the lull or not.
Yep.
But.
And I'm going to transition over to Allie here and put her right on the spot. Allie, you grew up in Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're from Texas. And what's your experience like hunting in the past in October in Texas? Because it's really warm.
It is really warm.
Still.
Honestly, I didn't bow hunt until Justin and I got together, so I didn't hunt in October.
Okay. So your experiences, so you've hunted more in the rut then in November and everything?
Yeah, but to be honest, I never really hunted bucks anyway. It didn't matter to me, so.
It was more of just
more just meat in the freezer.
Yep.
So. For
sure. So, okay, so let's transition a little bit to your rut hunts and the hunts that you have been on. What has been your experience, that's your favorite time? Like, do you have a favorite day? Do you have a favorite week of the year, that you like to get into the woods and hunt?
I don't. It's whenever I have time to go. If it's cold outside, I feel like they'll be up and moving.
Yeah.
Just like all animals, when it gets cold, they're spunky and...
Well, and they live in it, too, so it's like they have to get up to walk around.
Yeah, they don't have a choice. They can't go to the barn and hang out.
We can go over to the nest and just, like, dial it up to, like, 80 and we're good, So
I will say, though, like, and a big part of her inexperience and being able to answer that question is because prior to coming to Midwest Whitetail, I was in the freelance world, so I was always gone during the prime times to hunt.
Yep.
And I mean, she hunted a couple times on her own.
And she's new to it too. Like you got her into it, right? Like
But when I would be on the road, she maybe hunted 3 or 4 times by herself on our little 5 acres back home just to walk out in the yard and, go down to the creek and sit there. But, we've actually never had the opportunity to hunt together to where I can say, hey, babe, today's the day we got to go. Like, we're going to go here. We're going to hunt this. Like, we're going to go to this little spot, with this wind and that food. And so it sucks because we went on a bear hunt this year with her up to Saskatchewan and
successful bear hunt.
And it was so awesome and so rewarding to be able to be there with her and go through that whole process and spend we sat 5 days straight. We only hunted afternoons, but you go out at 2:00 and it's not dark till 10.
It's a grueling.
You're out there on
bear hunts are
8 hours
grueling.
And it's
sitting in a damn ladder stand and you're just looking at one shooting lane. You're like,
yeah,
it gets old.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, as we said, successful, but at the same time, even last year, when I was home every day, between editing shows and trying to create content for Midwest Whitetail and, get out there and, I had Cooper last year, spent a lot of time with me, filming me in a tree.
Intern on the couch.
Yep. And we just haven't had the opportunity to really deer hunt together.
So tell me this then, how passionate are you about deer hunting now being, new to it and, the things that you have experienced? How passionate are you? Do you want to learn a lot more? Are you full force, really want to do it? Or is it one of those things that's Justin does it and I enjoy it, but it's I like to do it with him kind of thing?
No, I think that if I felt confident in a piece of property that I knew, I would get out and go by myself if he wasn't here. But I don't have that confidence.
Right.
I don't know.
It's intimidating. I've been hunting my whole life, and to go do public land, for me, it's intimidating because I've never hunted public land.
And I've always hunted private in Texas, and so it's just been, I would go with my dad, or I knew the property. It didn't matter. I just grabbed my gun and go.
Well, and it's you got Tom, Dick, and Harry out there in public land, too, and it's you don't know what guy you're going to run to or gal that's you're in my spot, or,
It's scary.
It is. It's intimidating. And, I've been scouting some public land this last winter. We've been talking about a little bit in Michigan. And you walk into it and it's I've never set foot on this piece. Mm-hmm. And you look at it on a map and you're when you get down boots on the ground, it's gosh, this is big. Yeah. It's I've never been here. And I'm not going to lie, when you get back to the back, in a marsh or a swamp or something, and you're you get turned around and you don't know your asshole from your elbow, and you're I don't know where to go now. And it's your woodsmanship has to kick in a little bit, and hopefully a little bit to well, I think that's north, and do I have a compass, or does my phone even work? Or so it's it's always good to have a buddy system and have somebody go with you, and especially somebody like him that's done it a little bit and can guide you. And I totally get that because Adam, guy that we work with, he's hunted a lot of public land in Illinois, and him and I've been scouting the public land, and it's nice having him just be I've been here and kind of done this, even though he hasn't been on that piece either, and it's gives you more confidence, and it's a little more reassuring that it's kind of a safe haven in a way, you know what I mean? And it's a good feeling to have. So, but you were successful on your bear hunt.
I was.
You were,
yes.
And have you killed a deer yet?
I have not. Not with my bow.
Okay.
Not with my bow.
So you have with a rifle or a gun?
Yeah. When I lived in Texas. I haven't killed a deer
target
since
rich
I lived
environment
in
down there, so.
Well,
Yeah, we would do a lot of drives just like you guys do in Michigan during gun season, and she's a very she's very ethical for sure, but she's also very cautious, and she knows her limits. She's not going to take a shot at a deer, running through the woods after it's just been bumped by 3 other guys smelling like pancakes and cigarettes. So,
Marbles,
right,
cowboy killers,
and I commend her for that. And there's been times where it was frustrating because we missed some opportunities at deer where it's just they're not going to stop unless you are in their path and they're oh shit, and they stop real quick, and that's you have a half a second window to shoulder the gun and pull the trigger. She'd rather know what they're going to do and be there before they get there and know where the shot's going to be. And I think that's what's going to make her an excellent bow hunter. she used the word confidence, and so do you. And like, as her husband and the one who, you know, has kind of gotten her into bow hunting, it's like, for me, that's when I know I've done my job, is when she does get to that level. And it's like, I'm just going to go out to where we went that one day, and I'm going to go to that big oak tree, or I'm going to go to that ash tree, you know, just down, you know, whatever. Like, once she like starts talking about that stuff, it's like, once I know she's fine on her own doing it, like, that's it. Like,
hands off. She's going to want to do it herself.
I planted the seed and like have at it. And that's, like I said, I regret not having the time in the past 5 years to do that up to this point.
Yeah.
So and with the new job, I'm back on the road a lot more now.
So I guess what I want to know too is, you know, ultimately, what is your goals going into a fall? Like this fall, like what would be something that would be successful to you? And it doesn't even have to be a kill. Could it be like
to have Justin home for 2 weeks straight?
We'll get to that. We'll get to the widow. But what would be like a realistic goal for you? You know, is that hunting 6 times, or is that like killing a buck, or, you know, what would that be?
Just getting to go out, period. Like,
Yeah.
just, I don't even care, like 3 times. I would be happy with 3 times.
Enjoying the outdoors.
I think we went out once last year. 1 time.
Yeah, we went once.
No, twice.
Couple times. Yeah,
it was the same weekend.
We sat together, and I killed a doe, and then we sat together again, and I was filming her, and she actually missed her first doe.
Yeah.
Her first whitetail, she shot over it. But
yeah, I don't really know what happened because I was on with the bear.
yeah.
I also shot a lot before I went to the
Yeah.
bear, and I think I had shot my bow 4 or 5 times before we went deer hunting. I was not prepared. We got it in late.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, it was a new.
It wasn't
bow.
a great situation.
It was a new bow for her last fall, and it was set up, new site. Like, she came out of a Mission Menace and went to a Hoyt Vixen, and which is their. It's
a women's bow, or
the Vixen is like it's the women's line of the Power Max. That's what I'm thinking of.
Gotcha.
The Power Max.
I don't know much about Hoyt,
but
so I'm no help to you.
No, that's fine. I went back to Matthews myself, but I mean, she shoots the bow really well. We actually got to get her some new limbs and up her poundage a little bit. She shot so much to where she was just yanking that back, no issue. And you know, her bear shot was 12 yards, and we didn't get a pass through, but her bow will kill a deer for sure. But we just got to start progressing
for sure. And it all goes in stages. My wife's the same way. You know, we'll start shooting, you know, right after spring, and she'll be pulling, you know, 38 to 40 pounds. And then it's, you know, she's got to build that muscle up a little bit. And, you know, by the time fall comes, she's pulling, you know, upwards of 50 to 55 pounds. And that's where that's a sweet spot. But I told her, I said, and she even knows that, you know, if she can't pull her bow back while she's sitting down, she's not going to shoot that poundage, whatever that be, you know. Yeah. And, I mean, you can kill a deer with 38 pounds all day. You know, it's all shot placement. Everybody knows that, too. So, but there's ways around that, too, and that's something we've been playing with this year is arrow weight and using those brass inserts and everything and getting a heavier arrow. And that's what I love. Like, my wife shoots full metal jackets, and I give her a little heavier arrow, and she shoots a Rage. I don't even know what they call it now, but it's the green broadhead. It's the
like the 40 KE or whatever.
The 40 KE. That's what, and she shot that forever, and that broadhead does some damage. Oh yeah. Like, it's, you know, I know guys that shoot 70-pound bows and shoot those, and because they love the ferrule and they love, you know, the swept back blades and everything, and so, but that's cool. Like, I always like to hear stories like that. I mean, you said you're new into it, and I just like hearing more about that because you and I were talking a lot about hunter recruitment today on the drive, and that's something you're really, really passionate about, and I would like to get into that a little bit, you know, and that's something that she's a recruitment, you know, like she's a new hunter, you know, and that's something that you've been talking about and wanting to get into a lot, and you know, what is something, I guess I might put you on the spot here, but what is something that you think that we should be doing to getting, you know, more hunters in the game and not losing them at a rapid pace?
Her. Ladies.
Yep.
Honestly.
And honestly, that is, like, if you look at the numbers, that's the
fastest growing demographic.
fastest growing right now in hunting, across the board. Doesn't matter if it's whitetail or bird hunting or elk hunting or whatever. That's the fastest growing demographic, which I think is awesome, because I hope my daughter latches onto that when she's older and wants to hunt too. I'm not going to force her to, but I'm going to give her every opportunity to latch onto it. But so elaborate a little bit more on that. I mean, women in general, but how do you think that would affect to get more males in it as well? Is it just sexy, or is that all?
No, I think honestly, getting more women into it is going to get more, probably kids, daughters. You might have this scenario where if there's other women who are doing it, like yourself, you have friends.
Yeah.
And friends who are going to take interest in that.
Well, and they come over for wine one night and you're shooting your bow and you're like, oh, I want to try that kind of thing,
yeah.
Our neighbor.
Yeah. She's
she sees us out there
the target.
shooting.
She's like, I want to come over and shoot.
I want to try that.
Yeah.
And she's not, just to shoot in the yard.
Right.
She's not a hunter by any means yet, but maybe she will be. I think you're spot on, though, Keegan. It's, just having women, there's a certain percentage of those women who are moms, are going to be moms, whose children are going to see mom doing this. They're going to see dad doing it, and it's like, I
want to do that.
I went on that blood trail when I was 4. Like, I want to do that.
Well, let's be honest, too. Like, a father and his son, the son's going to want to do whatever the dad does. And the daughter, and I would think in more scenarios than not, is probably not going to latch onto what dad's doing.
I don't know. There's a lot of daddy's girls out there.
There is. But, I just think a lot of, there's a lot of girls out there, too. And it could be 50-50. I don't know any numbers. But when you see mom and dad doing it, it's almost like, my mom and dad are cool. Like, I want to do that, whether they're a boy or a girl.
Right.
I think it's awesome to see women in the outdoors, because it just shows that, women can do it too. You know what I mean? And not a lot of women out there are going out and hanging their own stands and doing their own thing. And I'm not saying you have to do that. But, my wife loves to go bow hunting, but she loves to do it with me. She doesn't really care to go by herself. Like, she'd rather go with me and have that, like, buddy aspect as well. And I really respect that too, because I like going with her as well, because seeing her shoot her first 2 bucks with her bow was like just as cool as me shooting one, and like I said, I hope my daughter latches onto that, sometime too. And the thing is with my wife too, is I'm not going to call it hard-headed. It's not hard-headedness, but it's like a girl or a woman is like, I think they're easier to teach than a guy in a lot of aspects.
I wouldn't say teach. I
think so, though, because
it's ego.
Yes, like I don't think a woman's ego really gets in the way like a male's ego could.
Right, and I think what you're trying to, and I may be misinterpreting this, but like
I could have put my foot right in my mouth too. I don't know.
No, I think I know what you're saying. Like, I think without that ego to get in the way, like they're not as stubborn to actually take direction. Like they'll be open to hear it. The key is to get someone giving information that is correct, because it's without that, I want to say defense or that wall up. Like if you're given wrong information, you're more likely to believe that that's the way it should be done.
Yep.
So I think the other side of that is to have someone like a newcomer like yourself, Allie, like to have somebody who can actually just. No, just like I'm talking about myself here. Jesus. This is not what I'm trying to do here, but you know what I'm getting at. It's just you're open to learn more than most guys are, I think.
Well, and I want to take it upon myself and like set a goal for myself to actually get a male into hunting that's never been into hunting, like in the near future. I want to do that. And my dad's listening to this right now, I guarantee it, because he listens to it every week. And he lets me know when the podcast is not out because he calls me right away. But, Dad, I'm talking about you right now. My dad got me into hunting. Okay, he taught me a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff. But there was my dad grew up as a bait hunter as well. I mean, that was a big thing, is bait hunting in Michigan. So my dad's woodsmanship is very on point. But now as he's getting older, yes, I just said you're old. He's getting older. He's coming to me for more now. Right. Like, it's almost like a full circle thing, if that makes sense.
Student
like,
becomes a teacher.
In a way, you know, and I'm not saying I know more than him, but like, I'm more with, you know, I've adapted more, I think, than he has. I think he got to a level where, you know, back in the day, my dad's still to the point where he's like, why would I need a new pickup when it's all rusted out when this one works great? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I gave him a bow one year, and he's like, why do I need this one? I've got my Miles Keller that I've shot since 1987. I'm like, Dad, that bow's 19 years old. Yeah. We should probably think about getting a different boat anchor out of your hand, you know? Yeah. So, and I gave him a new bow, and he's like, wow, this is really nice, you know? So it's like introducing him again, almost like baptizing him into, like, you know, the new way.
It's just a sign of the times. Like, if you don't keep up with the changing technologies and the different designs, and like, just, you know, you get one thing and it works for you, it's one thing to say that, right? But there's going to come a point where there's something that's far and above better than what you have. Yep. And it, you know, there's a time where you got to say, maybe I should consider looking at this. And it, you know, it's whether it's equipment or strategy or, you know, how you, I mean, like hanging hunts, like I'd be willing to bet that 30 years ago, the hang and hunt tactic was, you know,
wasn't even there.
And if
it was like one or two guys that were doing it, and there was no social media, there was no phones, there was no internet for anybody else to know about it, you know.
And if you look at what's going on right now, like in our time in the industry, like, I think this saddle hunting thing is going to be that one of those things that in 20 years we look back and it's like, okay, when did who the hell first started hunting out of a saddle?
John Eberhardt, I know of, you know.
But like, was it? I don't mean like a specific person, but like, at what point was that the new way to do this? Right. You know, it's like,
well, and the public land thing going on right now too. Yeah. You know, when I was a kid growing up, there was I never heard the word public land. I mean, you knew it was there, you know, it was, but it was never something that you thought, I was like, I gotta go hunt public land, or I'm gonna go try to hunt public land. Like, first of all, in my county in Michigan, there's only like 2 pieces of public land in that county. And it was never a thing to like go travel and hunt. That wasn't a thing. It was like, I grew up on this 215 acres. This is what I have to hunt, you know, and that's what my dad taught too, is like, you know, him growing up, from what I know, he had a couple stands that he hunted, maybe 2 or 3, but those are the stands. Didn't matter the wind, didn't matter nothing. Like, that's where he was going. Yeah, that's where he was going. And he killed some good bucks. He killed, you know, in the late 80s and early 90s, he killed some Pope and Young 130-inch deer. Like, he's killed some good Michigan deer, and he still does it. I mean, a couple years ago, he killed a couple other ones. But, you know, I think in one aspect, I want to have that, like, why should I fix it? You know, it's not broke, don't fix it. Right. Because I feel like, you know, me being a quote-unquote a millennial, I hate that I'm in that age bracket, but like, I feel like, you know, I want new gear every year. I'm a gear nut, you know, and it's like, he's like, I'm going to shoot my Zawickis from 1993. And I'm like, well, these Rage Broadheads are great, you know, or something.
But for guys like us, it's hard not to want that, because we're so exposed to these things.
So exposed.
I mean, talking about the way things used to be, I bet your dad could tell you that, you know, PSC only came out with a new bow every 5 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, even in my, I guess, I want to say experience, but like, when I started taking hunting seriously, like, even looking back to like 2000, 2003, like when I was in high school, like,
that's a long time ago.
I know, but well, the thing is, it's only, you know, what, 15 years ago, but it sounds longer when you say 15 years ago, but you know, you even in high school, like, do you remember paying attention to the industry enough to where it was like,
I didn't even know it was an industry.
What's the new Matthews bow this year? What's the new Hoyt bow? What's the new PSE bow? Like, you didn't pay attention to that crap. But like, now it's like a race.
It really is.
Like, here we are, October 9th. I can tell you for a fact, hands down, and you know this just as well as I do, that by Halloween, every pro shooter for Hoyt, Matthews, PSC, Elite, you know, every major manufacturer, they're going to have 20 bows in the hands of their pro shooters by Halloween day. And we're not going to see them until ATA. We're not going to see them until January or February.
Well, and that you go back to the high school thing, and that wasn't too long ago, really. And I watched Realtree and Primos and Midwest Whitetail. You know, that's kind of what got me going into it. But I didn't know there was an industry.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't either.
I was ignorant to, like, oh, this is like there's an ATA show. I didn't know anything about the ATA show.
Right.
Like,
my first exposure to that, like this is real. Like, I could make a living hunting in some aspect. The very first video I ever watched that made me feel that way was like the old Drury, like when Mark and Terry first started. Mm-hmm. It was before that. It was like I went from watching Saturday morning cartoons to Saturday morning
Realtree was on Saturday mornings,
and it was
on ESPN.
Yes, there was like 4 shows. It was a 2-hour block, and that was it. Mm-hmm. Like I'd wake up to watch that at 7 o'clock in the morning on a weekend when I was like 11.
Well, and you're a little younger than us, so what was your experience with the industry?
I would say it was the same thing. It was just you'd hear about like the groundbreaking things that would happen. Like, for example, like a Rage Broadhead, when that came out, it was like groundbreaking. Mm-hmm. A mechanical broadhead like a Rage that cut a monster hole.
Yeah.
I think, too, looking at it from like a retail background and like a sales cycle, when a company, there weren't as many mediums for companies to advertise on, their sales cycle was so much longer. Mm-hmm. So there was no need to come out with something the very next year to increase that
That's
sale.
a good point.
But the thing is, if everybody stopped doing that, like the medium's still there. So like, is it the chicken or the egg thing? Like, do you have to have a new product every year just because there's a place to put it?
Well, it's competition too.
Yeah,
but I just mean if you're your Hoyt PSE, your sales 15 years ago were probably drawn out over an extended period of time. Like at that point, if you had the Hoyt RX-1 that came out, people may still buy it for 3 years because they're not seeing it every day.
Right, but can you go into a bow shop right now and find a Hoyt RX-1 over an RX-3?
Probably not.
Exactly, and it's only 10 months old.
But I think to what you're saying is like it's keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
If the Matthews comes out, like if you have a Hoyt over 10 years that only comes out with one bow, and a Matthews comes out with 3 or 4, they're staying hip and cool and adapting. So it's like making the other companies.
Yeah.
I get the whole thing. I get both points.
Like it sets a pace for the rest of the industry to keep up with.
But honestly,
it's like diamonds. It's like a false scarcity. You set the market by how fast you can create a new product.
Yep.
Well, and it's like who can get it out first?
Yeah.
You know, who can get this groundbreaking technology out first?
And who's going to be the one shooting it? You know,
exactly.
Like you've got Chris and Casey and Lee and Levi. You know, they're going to have brand new Matthews in their hand by Halloween.
Yep.
Why? Because the guys holding the cameras, taking pictures of them and running video cameras on them, are going to be producing the marketing content for the 2020 calendar year to push that new bow. So they need kills. They need exposure with it by the time it hits market.
Well, and
but who that kills is the retailer.
Exactly.
And I'm not talking like
the
Shields.
pro shops.
I'm not talking Shields, Dick's, Sportsman's Warehouse, like the big stores.
You're talking about mom and pops.
Mom and pop.
Yep.
Archery shops.
They're a dying breed.
Small town USA archery shops. The people that are like in tune with the weekend warriors. You know,
that have to do their research and have to learn the products and actually have really good information on a lot of them. I mean, there are some bad pro shops out there, but there's some really good guys out there too that know how to do their stuff. And I've kind of fallen into that because I'm a gear guy. So when a piece of gear comes out that really intrigues me, I try to find out everything about that piece of gear, whether it's a bow, whether it's a cam, whether it's a limb, whether it's a broadhead, whether it's like, you know, those arrow inserts.
Fletching.
Fletching.
Yeah.
Or the arrow inserts that Lone Wolf that the DeQuistos came out with last year. You're like, I'm like, wow, could this benefit me in any way? If so, like maybe I should like really get into this. Do I need a new bow every year? No, I do not need a new bow every year. And if I had to pay for them, I would not be getting a new bow every year. Yeah. But I'm one of the fortunate ones that, you know, gets a very good discount on bows that I can, you know, every year get a new bow. And I'll be the first one to tell you I'm blessed in that aspect to be able to get that. And it helps because I'd have divorce papers on my table when I get home because my bank account would be hurting. Right. But, you know, you know, like back to what you were saying about the pro shops, and I don't want to see the pro shops dying. Like that's my dad's best friend still has a pro shop in my hometown, and it's a bait shop / pro shop, and my earliest memories are going to that pro shop and just bullshitting with guys that come in from hunts and talking about hunting. Like that's where I learned a lot of hunting from, was that pro shop. It's still at Schaefer's Bait in Wademan, Michigan. Go there. Like it's Archie, his name's Greg, but everybody calls him Archie. Like everybody knows him. He's got the best crumb duster in the league. I mean, it's a great leg scratcher, but it's so cool. You go in there and you just hear stories, and he's got like a picture wall and everything. And you know, that's what's cool to me. And those are my earliest memories. And I don't want to see those guys dying, you know?
Yeah. And I'm right there with you. And I've seen those shops die. Cause like where I bought my first bow from, Whitney Point, New York, the Sportsman's Den. Hap Sherwood was the guy's name, and by the time I was old enough to take it seriously, like I bought a bow. It was a Buck Knives archery bow. Like Buck Knives made a bow.
Buck Knives archery
Buck
bow?
Knives made a bow for about 2 years, and I bought it all set up, like all the accessories, half dozen arrows for $200.
Wow.
Yeah,
that was expensive back then, though.
Yeah, but it was like I mean I killed deer with it, and it's like one of those things where I don't have it anymore. Yes, I do have it. It's a bow fishing setup now, but you know it's just. Like you're saying, you walk in, it's like it was a wooden ramp. There was no stairs. It was like a handicap accessible ramp. It was an old feed store. Like every board had miles of footsteps on it. Like you walk up, you open the door, the bell rings, and it's like you can smell it. Like you look around.
You smell the bait. You smell the.
You smell the minnow tanks. Like you can smell
you can hear them running.
Smell the dirty water just in the air. But then. You know, you turn to the left, it's the gun counter. Like all the shotguns and rifles are back there. You turn right, it's the archery wall. Beyond that is the range, and like on the back wall is all ice fishing stuff. And you know, it puts you into the fishing section. But then it's like you look at the walls, and it's just 8x10 photos from disposable cameras that got sent out to print that are all faded. Everyone's on the tailgate of a truck in a frame from Walmart. You know, somebody's wearing a green and black plaid jacket or a Woolrich, red and black, and it's like, they all got a cigarette in their mouth, and it's like
blue jeans,
right? And you just walk
no
in
knee-high
there, and
boots,
it was
they're
like
Sorels, they're tie-up Sorels,
and you walk in there, and it's like, this is what the hunting lifestyle is. It's like this is cool. This is why I want to buy that bow. This is why I want to buy that shotgun.
Yep.
And now it's like, you got to have this, you got to have that. It's like it's a competition. Like,
it really is, and I hate that about it.
There's no nostalgia to it anymore, and it's like we can sit here and talk about it every week all day long for hours on hours about our dads and, why we do it and, like, what our goals are and, just have it building that confidence and talking about the lull and all this other stuff. It's like you get to a point, it's like you ask yourself, am I overanalyzing this? Like, am I part of the problem?
Hunters overanalyze
It's not a
everything.
problem, but it's like, you're right, they do. But you just kind of start realizing, like, it's not the way it was when I got into it, and keeping up with the Joneses. Like, it's not just manufacturers, it's not just retailers.
Right.
It's this evolution of what hunting has become, and it's unstoppable just because of the way technology changes bows and rifles and gear. I mean.
Well, and two,
it's not right to have a 6-ounce jacket that can maintain your body temperature down to 10 below zero. Like, how the hell do you do that?
Right.
You know?
We're kind of getting down a rabbit hole, but we started with hunter recruitment.
Sorry.
So I want to kind of kick it back to that, but like, we want to get back to that. So like with hunter recruitment, how do we get back to that? Do we ever get back to that? Are we so far gone that it's like that's a blast in the past, or is it? What do you do? Like, what is something, some ideas that you might have, but you're right on the spot.
I mean, I think like the gatherings that people have where they're willing to,
the buck pulls,
whether it's
the buck pull,
buck pulls or a pint night where it's people who are already hunters that are inviting other people in to just, you're a hunter, so meet somebody who's a non-hunter, and they're like, oh, this guy knows his stuff. He's a good dude. Somebody I could see myself spending time with outside of my everyday work, whatever, and go into the woods and learn some stuff from them, and just see that you're a normal person.
Well, it's even, like you said, inviting someone to deer camp.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Or it doesn't have to be a whitetail hunt. Like, take somebody squirrel hunting,
yeah.
rabbit hunting, something that's easy.
And that's something like turkey hunting or squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting, when you can get up and move and converse and like kind of get that camaraderie, because camaraderie is huge, you know. And it's like sitting at the back of a tailgate where you got some rabbits there and you're getting ready to go skin them. Like, that's freaking fun. Like, that's a lot of fun.
That was a huge factor in our trip to Canada. Like, and we've talked about this, so this is not like anything like. Our marriage is great, but like when we were up there on that hunt,
disclaimer, our marriage is great now.
We're good. We're all good. But we were a different couple when we were up there on that hunt. And I don't know if it was because we weren't on our phones all day long or if we were just in tune with what we were there for. I think we were just, it felt like a vacation. Like, you just let everything else go. And like, we were joking. I was filming her, like, she fell asleep in the stand, and like I was doing like one of these things, and she wakes up and she's like, "What the hell are you doing? That's weird." And I was like, "I know." Otherwise it's like, it was just a different few days for us, like versus what we just do in our normal lives at home every day. It's not the, have a good day, see you when you get home. What do you want for dinner? Go watch Shameless for 2 hours, like. It's like, what do you want to do now? I don't know. Give me a beer. I don't care. And it was, we have our moments where it's like nagging on each other and like can't stand each other or like, but that whole week was none of that. Like there was absolutely nothing. It was like a first date that lasted for 7 days.
Oh, that's cute.
It was cute.
It was. I'm not trying to be a sap about it, but there was something different about the way we interacted. I totally get it. For 7 straight days. We drove from Bozeman all the way up there, hunted for 6 days, and then drove all the way back to Des Moines from 2 hours north of Saskatoon.
Yeah.
And it's like, kind of rode that high for a while, and it was like, that was great. Why don't we do that more often? Well, we're gonna.
We need to organize something where we can get some people out that have never hunted before and like kind of with the lack of time that we have but like, you know what I mean? I know like QDMA is like big into like getting hunters in right now, and they're doing, I follow them on Instagram and all that stuff, and they're doing some stuff right now during the weekends and getting people out shooting and, and field dressing animals, and like, I'd like to be part of something like that, like just to open it up a little more. And I don't know how, not antis, I was going to say antis, but I don't know how people that don't hunt would like hear this podcast, I guess. Yeah. I hope some people do and they like enjoy it. Like, hunters aren't just like cold-blooded, like out there to kill every animal just to get rid of them. Like, hunters, everybody has to understand, are like the biggest conservationist. And my combat to like any antis, and this is something that I've heard from someone else too, but antis say, they're the first ones to come in and just start demoralizing you and putting you down and saying you're bad. But like, if they want to be a conservationist and help, go buy a tag.
Go buy a duck stamp. You don't even got to go do anything.
You don't have to do anything. I don't care if you throw it away.
Right. Just go spend the money.
Go spend the money. Go buy a knife. Yeah. Go buy something for the outdoors, and that money's going to go to conservation. Just helped.
Join NWTF or Mule Deer Foundation.
Nobody has to know that you joined it.
Right.
Go buy a tag, rip it up. I don't care if you use it or not. Don't give it to anybody else to use, because that's highly against the law, but go buy it and like rip it up and throw it away. I don't care, but that's helping conservation more than somebody sitting on the couch and not doing anything about it. That's... Go to Walmart and buy a tag. Yep. I don't care if it's a doe tag. Like you said, a duck stamp. I don't give a shit what it is, and do it. And that's helping out. That's helping the wildlife. But a lot of people don't understand that if we don't manage these animals, our food source starts going away.
Yeah.
And our way of life starts going away too. And then, these deer, or as we're talking about deer, they get overpopulated, which, you know, in a lot of states they are overpopulated. But imagine if we didn't hunt for 5 years. Nobody killed an animal other than car deer accidents. You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I was going to say. Is car
There'd be a lot
insurance
more of
rates
those.
would go up across the country.
and we'd all be riding bikes or horse and buggy. So maybe the Amish got it really figured out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I always look at it too, like there's that infographic that shows, I think it's like 1970, and it shows the populations of most of the North American big game animals, waterfowl, whatever, and where all the populations were then. And it's crazy. I mean, you look at like antelope, and I want to say there's like 22,000 in all of North America, and now there's millions.
22,000 in one field.
Yeah, I mean, with waterfowl too. I mean, you look at that, and it was like near extinct.
Yeah.
Whitetail
the
was turkey. Yeah, I
It's a
mean,
huge
Turkeys didn't come to Michigan until, I don't know the exact date, but like 80s
Yeah.
to like mid or early 90s. you
yeah,
know?
and
You guys
that's
have a
most of the
huge
Midwest.
population.
Yeah.
My dad still talks about seeing his first turkey.
Yeah.
He's like, I saw it in a field, and I was like, what the
What
heck
the hell
is
is that? Something
Yeah.
get away from a farm or something? Or
I mean,
Yeah.
the reason populations have flourished is conservation and hunters and people putting time into these
Time and money.
NWTF Mule Deer
Right.
Foundation to make sure that habitat can support a population like that. So,
Right.
I don't know.
what's your thoughts on it, Allie?
It's good.
No,
Hold
I
on.
just feel like
It's good. I can't get as low.
You're
as
an
him.
animal lover, so
I am. I love animals, but I also love to hunt them and eat them. I feel like there's not enough promotion, so to speak. Like it's not out there enough.
Mhm.
I live in the industry. Like my life is the industry,
Yep.
and I don't see it every day
Right.
on any of my social media. I
Can you
see it
explain what you
in
do
and
first so everybody does know?
I manage a large animal ambulatory vet clinic. So they're food animals.
Yep.
It's cattle, sheep, goats.
Yep.
So not only in that industry, but in the hunting industry, you know, that's the second.
You see both sides of
both
it.
sides
yeah.
of it. So
Yeah.
there's not enough good information. It doesn't come out because
Totally agree.
all the bad is in your face,
Yep.
and that's all you see. So how are you supposed to know that there is a good side? We're trying to do the right thing.
Right.
Like we are
Yeah.
doing the right thing, and one bad thing gets promoted, and all the bad thing or the good things go away. And it's just
That's
it's
the
that way
thing.
in a lot of industries, unfortunately. But more so with the animals. I mean, even going into research is, you know, that's a
a
whole nother topic.
Whole other world.
But
Well-
just with animals in general, there's just not. It's just not enough good that gets promoted.
Mhm.
You don't see it.
I agree
like you do
100% because
the negativity.
and you're talking about, you know, one bad egg really ruins it for everybody because, you know, in hunting we're talking about taking a life, you know, and it's like that holds a lot of weight, whether it's an animal or whatever it is, that holds a lot of weight. And, you know, like you said, like one bad poacher or one bad whoever ruins it for everybody. And that's what I hate about it, because for that one bad person, I'm telling you, there's triple the amount that are doing the good thing that you don't hear about.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'll be totally honest with you. Like, you know, a couple years ago in Missouri, I shot a deer. I had a tag. You weren't allowed to shoot 6 points. I did not know that, and it was my fault for not knowing the rules. I rattled a buck in, and he ended up being a big old 6 point, and I faced the consequences. I turned myself in to the DNR and, you know, paid a fine. I was in the local Gazette. It was great, let me tell you. But, like, you know, how many guys or gals out there would just either take it home, you know, or throw it in a ditch and just keep hunting and not put their tag on it?
Right.
I put my tag on it. And I think that just goes back to how I was raised, too. And it's, you know, I don't... And I'm also in an area where I, you know, something goes wrong. I mean, they throw the book at you too. Not that I'm any big hunter. I'm not like a big celebrity hunter. I'm far from that. But like, I want to set an example for people out there, being like, you know, do the right thing. And nobody knows that. Like, this is the first time I've ever even said anything to the public about it. You know, and it's. But I don't know. I agree with you that, you know, there's not enough good out there, and that's what we need to figure out, is how to first tackle that as well. I mean, would you agree, Keegan, with that? And, you know, trying to just promote the good and the bad. I mean, like, also owning up to your mistakes, is one big thing, and showing, I like to call it like showing your nakedness, like showing that you're not perfect. We're not all perfect. So like, take your beating and move on and correct it.
I've got a similar story, but I'll let Keegan answer.
No, I mean, that's what I got. Going along with what you said, there's just not enough positive. The story that you told where you two were, up in Canada hunting, I think something like that, like people hearing or seeing that story of a husband and a wife and enjoying time together and seeing what it's really about, not knocking TV hunters at all, but seeing the entire process, and that like there's a whole lot of interaction and fun that can be had whether you're successful in taking an animal or not. And I think that's going to go a long way.
Not to mention how it affected our marriage, our relationship. Like it was, like I said, it was amazing. We were at a different level, but it was a amazing first experience for her on her first successful archery hunt. And to be together on that. I mean, I shot it for Cabela's at the time, and it never went anywhere, but I edited that, and Aaron's seen that cut, but it was still a little rough at the time, I think. But I titled it Just Us, and it's because we got back here to spine it out and talk about the week after the fact, and that's all she talked about was how nice it was to just be away and like just be us again, like I said, a first date that lasted for a week, and that's really. The kill was the bonus. We say that all the time, but it really was. And like she walked away from that with confidence as an archer. She had a great experience, harvesting a big game animal of any animal for that matter for the first time ever with a bow, and it put us at a different level. And it was, I mean, as a husband, it was incredible. As a hunter, to see her do that and to be there with her and document it. And I mean, it was just everything I've ever filmed. Like, I think it ranks up there as one of the best things I've ever documented. And it's my wife. And I don't want to say that to sound like it's because I was there, but it was the fact that it was just the two of us. It wasn't like a drop situation where we were out in the remote on our own. But, that camp life at the end of the day, the wood stove in the cabin, we're on the riverbank for a week.
Well, and you're also showing her also like what you do as well, like in a way, like when you go out on these trips, like she doesn't get to experience that either, and you're also kind of like in a way like teaching her some things, and just kind of opening up your world that she doesn't get to see all the time,
right?
And I think that's what's pretty cool, and I would love my wife to be able to see that eventually. And sometime I always said, after going on a drop trip, like I want other people to experience that, not from the lens, but everyday life and like what we do. Like, it's something different. It's different.
And I don't know how your wife is, but like Ellie, like when I'm on a shoot and like we actually can communicate, like with phone calls or text messages or whatever. It's never she never asks like. She doesn't tell me how bad her day was, like because the dogs were a pain in the ass, or like she doesn't bitch about what she has to do extra because I'm not there. It's, did you guys see anything? Did you see that buck again? Like, did you kill yet? Or I'll send her a picture and she's like, hell yeah, that's awesome. Like, she said, I'm proud of you more often than when are you coming home? And it's like, she wants to see my work. Like when I would put a show out last year for Realtree, it was like, oh, it's Wednesday, let's watch it.
Right.
And it was like, I'm down here in the basement till 3 a.m, finishing a show the night before it's due. She comes home from work the next day and it's like 5 o'clock, YouTube, let's watch it.
Yep.
She's like,
yeah, Alyssa's a lot of the same way, and she, we've been into this for almost 8 years now together, and me working and doing that thing, and she's a lot of the same way, but now with different stuff in our life with our daughter and everything. It's not so much like she asks me how my day is and how's it going and everything, and It's just like Cliff Notes version. It's not like, oh, we got to 30 yards and sometimes it is. It's like,
Yeah.
we're going after a big mule deer and we're trying to get him or something. And she'd be like, oh, that's so cool. Well, Peyton had a great day too, and it's like, but she does like get it and she appreciates what I do and she really likes it. But I've ruined her to TV because, a lot of secrets there.
Same way. Same here.
Like
same here.
We watch Ozark or anything on like Netflix, and she's like, "Oh, I hate this. I hate this. See the continuity there?" She goes, "Go back." She goes, "See the door was closed on that shot, but then now it's open on this next cut." And she's like, "It doesn't make sense." And I'm like,
"Yeah, he was holding the pen in his right hand last time."
Yep. That glass was more full last time I saw it, and
she's the same way.
It's a lot of things ruined, so we can't really.
She'll watch stuff and be like, "This is crap. Turn it off. I can't
do
stand
it."
I'll pause it and look at her and just be like, "Just enjoy the show," and then roll over and just hit play. Like, let's go.
Yep.
But
I just want to go back real quick to elaborate on your story about your 6 point.
Yeah.
This is something I've never admitted either to the public, I guess, if you want to call it that. But I was 17 and I got a ticket one time for hunting without a license. I was calling for a friend of mine, turkey hunting. I didn't have a gun. I was calling.
So you just met a bad DNR officer that day.
Yeah. And I was just another statistic in his quota for that month. And I went to court and I just said, I pled my case. I was a young kid. And the judge was like, "Did you learn your lesson?" And I'm like, "Of course I did. Like, it's on me to know that."
But did you have a lesson to learn though? You weren't out there hunting. You didn't
Right.
have a weapon.
Exactly.
You were out there.
And I mean, I wasn't going to argue with the guy at the time, but it was just like, he fined me $10. He's like, "Give me $10 for the time you've been here." I was like, "Okay." And it's like, to this day, I think it's still. I mean, the way New York defined it is it's active pursuit. I was the one communicating. The other guy was the one pulling the trigger. By their definition, we were both hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And I admitted it was on me to know the difference or to know that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was calling. Like I didn't read the specifics of the fine print when it came down to how it's defined. And even at that point, it's speculation. It's like, okay, well, how do you define active pursuit?
Yeah.
Well, that's not in the book.
Yeah.
So it's speculation in the field.
A lot of gray area there.
Yeah, so it's slap on the wrist, lesson learned, and it's just one of those things like you dealt with. And
well, it in my scenario, it was totally my fault. Like, I'll be 100% honest with you. Like, I should have knew the rules. Adults can't shoot 6 points in Missouri. At the time, they couldn't. I don't know if they can yet or not. I haven't been back since then. Not for any particular reason. I just haven't had a chance to go back yet. But youth can shoot 6 points.
Right.
In the scenario I was in, it was picture perfect morning, crisp, frost on the ground, rut. It was November 13th, I believe, or 14th, something like that. And growing up in Michigan and hunting Michigan a lot, you didn't get to use rattling antlers. I mean, you could. Nothing saying you get against it, but it just didn't work, So I was excited to bang the antlers together, blind rattle. Like, I want to see all these bucks come out of nowhere, I was hunting a creek bottom, and the ditches went really high up into some hayfields. And if a deer was to come to the hayfield, it was eye level with me, so I get the antlers and I just crash them together. And I after reviewing the footage, it was 54 seconds I was rattling for. And at like 54 seconds, this buck comes from the hayfield into the timber, as fast as a deer could run. And all I saw was a wide frame. I saw G2s and I saw a wide frame, and I immediately said shooter. And I'm like, done deal, because I'm thinking, if he's coming in there that hot, not that it couldn't be a young deer or anything, but I'm thinking mature deer. That's what I'm thinking. He's looking for a fight. He comes right underneath me, and I just had just enough time to grab my bow, knock the release, and pulled back, and I stopped him at 32 yards. Big wide frame, saw G2s. That's all I remember. Shot him, ran off 40 yards. I watched him die, and I'm like ecstatic. At the time, I'm like, that's my biggest buck to date.
Yep.
It's crazy rut hunt, awesome. So we're hooting and hollering and everything, and I'm like, I want to see the footage. Go back to the footage, and I'm like, right when we paused right before the shot, and the deer looks after I stopped him, I'm like, oh boy. I'm like, I think he's a 6-point. Like, I don't think he's got any G3s, or he might even be a 4-point because I couldn't see his brows. And from the moment that deer showed up and the moment I shot him, it was 6 seconds. From when I rattled to when I shot him, it was 6 seconds. Just enough to grab my bow, turn, I pulled back, and I stopped him, and I shot. And I'm like, it was killing me. I'm like...
So this all literally happens within a minute time frame.
From when I started rattling...
From when you rattled to when you shot.
It was a minute.
A minute.
1 minute.
60 seconds flat.
Yep.
Yeah.
And at that point, it didn't hit me like... I'm like... I was thinking it was a 6-point, like, crap.
Right.
Not that, like, you're not supposed to shoot 6 points, but, like, dang. Like, it was almost like a letdown, like, I shot a 6-point. Like, but I didn't know because I couldn't really see. The footage wasn't, like, it was crisp and clear, but it wasn't. It was on a little LCD. So I'm like, I saw the deer go down. I'm like, I got to get down and go look. I walked up there and saw it was a 6-point. So I was down. I'm like, big deer. It was like it was a mature deer, I thought. It was like a 4-year-old deer. Perfect management deer to get out. Like, and so I called my buddy, and I'm like, hey, I shot one, a 6-point. He's like, 6-point. He's like, you're not supposed to shoot 6 points. And I'm like, really?
For real?
Really? His dad is the sheriff of the county also. And I know his dad really well, and I just said, well, right then and there, I said, well, I basically I did something wrong. I need to own up to it. And then I called his dad, and he said, well, meet me here, and I'll have the head of the DNR meet me. And I went to the meat locker. That's where they had us meet him. I loaded the deer up, put my tag on it before, punched the tag and everything, went there, and I sat in the DNR truck. He took all my information. He asked me about the hunt and everything. Really nice guy. It was great. He was great. And they took the deer. They donated the deer, so that was good. They donated the deer to the hungry. I kind of wish I could have the rack because it was my first out-of-state buck.
Yeah.
But they took the rack and everything, and I got fined, and now I know, lesson learned. And do I look back and I'm like, I regret it? No, I don't, because I was really upset that me doing that overrided an awesome hunt.
Yeah.
Like, I rattled my first buck and
Just
killed him.
Took the wind out of your sails.
It really
instantly.
did. But when I look back now, it's been years now since I did that, and it was one of the best hunts I've been on. But it was a big eye opener. And now it's like anywhere I go hunt, even Michigan, I live there, and it seems like the regulations change every year. Like, there's new things going on. So if there's anything out of this, my ramble and my rabbit hole, it's like, learn, read every year. Like,
yeah,
figure it out.
Same with me. I mean,
yeah,
I'll never forget that, and I'll always know. But
yep.
I don't want to drag this out too far, but it can go the other way too. Just last week, a guest we've had on the podcast twice, Lindsay Bauer, she shot a buck here in Iowa last week that was on her property, private land, and she's a landowner, so she gets 2 tags, and she shot this deer pretty much out of mercy. Like, it was a mercy kill. She saw this deer was messed up. I don't know if you saw it on her Instagram.
I have not heard this story at all. Yeah. I saw the picture, but I didn't know.
Go read her post about it. She identified that something was wrong with this deer.
I see it was a big deer.
It was a 10-point buck, and she chose to burn her tag on it. And because of the symptoms it was showing, like, it wasn't right, and the deer was like dragging its feet. Like, I don't know if it was CWD or I don't think it was CWD. It was probably EHD if I had to guess. And it was just kind of like it was circling the drain. She shot it and burned her tag on it. So because of the symptoms it showed, she called DNR and said, this is what happened. This is the circumstance. Like, she didn't do anything illegal, but from a conservation standpoint, she chose to burn one of her tags to end that deer's life because it was going to die slow and painful. She made a heart shot on it, like at 31 yards, and the DNR came, took the deer, and gave her a new tag. Like, you did the right thing. That shouldn't cost you an opportunity at a deer that you're trying to raise, like, and manage your property for. Like, thank you. Here's a new tag. We're going to take the deer for testing. Appreciate what you did, and good job. So, I mean, it
can be rewarding.
Yeah, it's not always,
sure.
There's not always a penalty involved. And
right.
Like I said, she didn't do anything illegal. It was in the daylight. It was on her own property and whatever. But the fact that she chose to recognize what was going on.
To put the deer out of its
right, and
misery.
she put the animal first,
Yep.
and she burned one of her tags on it, and lo and behold, she was able to get another one in place of that because of what she did.
I gotcha. Yeah, I didn't hear that story. I've been wanting to get a hold of her to see, because all I saw was the picture of the deer laying there, So.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people that commented on that and like ripped her apart, saying like she wouldn't have shot that deer. It was a young deer, had great potential. It was a deer that she would have loved to have seen live 2 or 3 more years to reach its potential.
Yeah.
And people are ripping her apart because.
And that's what I hate, the trolls out there,
Yeah,
ripping people apart. Like, if that deer makes you, like, if nobody knew the story, that deer makes her happy. It doesn't matter if she's in Iowa or whatever. I mean,
right. And that's what they're saying. It's like, oh, it must be nice to live in Iowa and bitch about shooting a 10-point. Like, I've never shot a 10-point in my life.
Yeah.
Like, these people are commenting and saying like, you just, because you're a woman and like you played that card and like you're crying conservation, like, of course you're going to get rewarded. It's like, that's not why you do that. It's just because you see the fact that this animal is distressed and it's near the end of its life and it's suffering.
Yeah. Sure.
It's like, I think anybody would do that.
Yep, I would. So, well, we're rambling here.
Yeah, I know.
No, we're good. We're gonna cut everybody loose here. We're, a little over an hour in this, and I appreciate everybody coming on. Allie, thank you for opening up your house.
Yeah, not a problem.
And
anytime.
Letting us come here and stay. Keegan, you look like you're gonna fall asleep right here.
I'm tired.
You haven't even drove yet today. I drove the whole way.
I know, but I played yellow car pretty hard.
You did.
So.
You play that to the fullest.
Came back from
You're like Rain Man out there.
Large deficit.
Yeah.
So
we won't even get into that. So.
Well, it's good to be back, and we didn't even get to talk about the elk hunt, but
no,
Keegan's elk hunt and my elk hunt, and when I get back from Maine, we'll have more to talk about. So by then, I'll have deer hunted again, and
you guys need to get in the woods. Get your wife in the woods, would you?
That's the plan.
I'm sure it'll be after the moose hunt.
Yeah, probably. But
there's a good cold front coming though. You got a couple days. You can take her.
Yeah.
After work.
By the time she gets home from work, though, and an hour drive down there and to where I'd like to hunt. But
yeah,
we'll do what we can.
Well, we'll do another update here soon, and Allie will be on again. This won't be the last time you hear her voice. So,
woohoo! Lucky y'all.
Thanks everybody for coming on, and if everybody could go that's listening to this could go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating and leave some feedback, it'd be greatly appreciated. So, good luck out there this fall, and thank you for listening.